Hello, everyone. Sorry for not being as punctual as usual. I was experiencing some technical difficulties despite having restarted my computer. I don't know how many times. So today we are talking about pushing and pulling film, something that I'm sure a lot of you have more experience than I on doing. But for those of you who are sort of slowly but surely getting back into film, I thought this might be quite interesting. And also because, quite frankly, we haven't got much else to do. Why don't we push and pull some film? I will also be announcing the winner for our film photography competition. Now, I popped a little link in there because I noticed that some shots were missing some love as I was going through them. And this might have to be a little bit of an off the cuff, spur of the moment winner as we go through the pictures a little bit later and actually look at who got the highest number of comments. Because I was looking through and there was sort of like three or four comments of a lot of photos. So from what I could see, there wasn't a clear winner yet, and that makes things very tricky. So please do, if you have a moment, go through and comment. You can just create a new tab and click on the link that I popped in the comments. Yeah, I'm sorry that my vision and audio are not syncing up today. That's very, very frustrating. I wonder if there is a quick way to fix that. Bear with me one moment and I will try and fix it. Let's see. Nope, that doesn't seem to have fixed it. Minor technical difficulties here. Let me try something else. Bear with me one moment, everybody. All right, now I should be, it says I have excellent connection, so hopefully you can all hear me. Whether or not you can all see me is another matter. I'm not entirely sure what's happened. The internet gods are not working in my favor today, it seems. My audio is perfect now, apparently, so let's see if that works. If everyone could just give me a little shout and tell me whether you can see and hear me roughly at the same time, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, I may have to start this again, which I'm hoping won't happen. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today doesn't necessarily involve showing you very much as it does talking at you. But anyway, so let's just see. I'm just having a look at your comments now to make sure that I'm syncing up. There's obviously a slight delay on the stream anyway, so sometimes it takes a little bit of time. But today we are talking about pushing and pulling film. Now, the important thing to know is that this is not a very complicated topic. And actually, it's much simpler than it sounds, but you do have to know about ISO and stops and how they relate to one another. Most of us know what ISO is in terms of digital cameras, but in terms of film cameras, obviously it refers to the speed of your film. So the little thing that you put inside your film camera, all of those have different speeds based on the amount of chemicals that are on the film. I'm going to keep it as simple as that. I do get a lot of people send me emails saying, you didn't explain this thoroughly, or blah, blah, blah. But the people that are sending me those emails are usually the people that know what I was talking about anyway. So I like to try and keep things as straightforward as possible to those people who don't want to get into the super technical nitty gritty. So I apologize for those of you who are very technically minded, who maybe think that sometimes I water things down a little bit. Just a quick hello to all of you wonderful people that have joined. Hello, hey, to Andrew from Sweden, and to Nick and Terry and Thaddeus. So glad you received your book prize, and everybody please do vote for the film photography competition so that I can get a clear-cut winner this afternoon. Otherwise that's going to be a very interesting live announcement. I don't even know who's won yet. And to Lubomir and John and Eves and Nick and Peter and Sam, goodness me, you've all been very busy commenting while I've been trying to sort out my technical difficulties. Anyway, all right, so we're going to talk about ISO. ISO refers to the speed of the film on the box. So if the box of film says that it is ISO or ASA, it's the same thing, says it's ISO 200 or 400, then that is the speed of the film, and you can't change it mid-film. However, you may, for one reason or another that I will go into in a moment, want to shoot at a different speed to what the box says. Now, some film works better than others for this. So usually, if you look in the on the box itself or in the instructions or on the manufacturer's website, you will see whether or not they recommend that you push or pull film. Pushing and pulling effectively means that you're shooting in stops either higher or lower than the box speed on the film. So if the box speed is 400 ISO, but you decide to tell the camera that what's inside it is 200 ISO, then you're actually shooting at -1 EV, if you like. You're shooting at a stop under what the box speed says it should be. When you're shooting under, we call it pulling. When you're overexposing the film, you're calling it pushing. And Brian just donated using Super Chat. Thank you very, very much, Brian, for that. Just as a very excellent prompt for me to remember, we have our little glass of imaginary ice cream, which we encourage you to fill up if you can. The reason I'm having technical difficulties was because I was trying to get that little widget to work slightly better. And it just opened up a whole can of worms. So hopefully it will fill up throughout the progression of the stream. But please do contribute to our coffee croissant Easter egg fund. I'm sure the Easter eggs must be reduced now. So, you know, £2 would probably buy me a lot of Easter eggs. But thank you to everyone who does contribute. And please feel free to contribute as we go along. All right, so stops, as you probably know, refer to a measurement of light. We usually measure stops in terms of aperture, but you can also, because it's a measurement of light, we often talk about stopping down your lens or adjusting the aperture by a few stops. But you can do the same with ISO and obviously shutter speed. All of those affect the amount of light that goes into a camera, whether it's a digital camera or a film camera. Now, when you put a roll of film in your film camera, obviously you're stuck with this certain ISO, this certain speed of film. Fast film is usually in the high numbers like 1600, 800, etc. Slow film is usually lower. You can get film that's as low as 64, and someone's going to tell me there's 32 speed film. I don't know if that's still made. 100, 200 is still considered fairly slow film, so it has a low ISO number. So what we do when we push film is we shoot the film at a higher ISO than what's on the box, and when we pull film we shoot at a lower ISO than what's on the box. Now there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do this, and I'm going to talk about pushing film first because that is usually more common and it gives you often better results. So for example, let's say that you are shooting in a low light situation and your film speed is 400 ISO, but you actually need to be using about 800 ISO film speed, or you need to use shutter speeds that would relate to that. So what you do is you set the camera, so up here, this is my FM3A, my trusty FM3A. At the moment, I have a roll of film in there. Let's say it's 200. It's not because I'm currently pulling this film. But let's say you wanted to set that dial. Your film speed says 400 ISO on it, but instead you're going to move that little ISO dial to 800. So the meter inside the camera treats the film as though it were 800 ISO film. And you think, what? How does that help me? Well, what you then have to do is so you shoot the entire roll of film at this overexposed or pushed setting. And then you have to write on your little film canister. I left my film canister downstairs, which is disastrous. But you have to actually write on the canister itself, +1 if you've pushed it by a stop, or +2 if you pushed it by 2 stops. Or you have to put -1 if you've pulled it. So you have to write that on your film. Very, very important, because otherwise the people that develop your film for you will not know that you have pushed or pulled your film intentionally, and they will correct it for you, or they will basically expose the film or develop the film for the length of time that it says on the canister instead of what you wanted them to. So when you're, there used to be Kodachrome 25. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay. Never shot anything as low as that. Not even my digital camera shoots as low as that. That's amazing. So when you're developing this film and you're pushing and pulling, essentially what you're doing is reducing or extending the amount of time that you develop for. So when you're pushing film, you're telling the DMP guys, the developing and printing guys, that you want the film to be developed for longer than normal. Or if you're pulling film, then you want them to undercook it, as they call, so it looks slightly lower exposed than it should do. Now, just Steve says he remembers that. Okay. Oh dear. You're not showing your age at all. It's just, when I started shooting film, which was when I was at school, most of the cameras that I shot with actually didn't allow you to do things like pushing and pulling film. And to be honest, I would buy whatever the cheapest thing was and shove it in my little compact. I had a little Kodak all-in-one, and I didn't have any clue about these things at all. So there you go. A lot of you have been shooting photography film for much longer than I have. Hectare 25 sounds wonderful. Sounds delicious. I love Hectare 100, so I imagine that that's even more fantastic. So if you're in low light and your film speed is not fast enough, you want to push your film potentially so that you can shoot at handheld speeds, which normally when we're shooting film is about a 60th of a second, maybe, is the minimum speed that you want to shoot at. Oh my goodness, Trevor has just contributed £5 to the coffee fund. Yay! Thank you so much. Is my little widget working? I have no idea. I'm just going to have a look. Oh yeah, there's something in it. Okay, good. That's good. Thank you. All right, so then if you wanted to shoot, for example, let's just say creatively, you wanted to push, black and white film definitely gives you a more kind of creative look. It will give you more contrast. It will give you more grain. So if you had, for example, low ISO black and white film can sometimes look a little bit too smooth. I have no problem with too smooth, but if you wanted it to look super grainy, then you could push the film and it would give you more contrast and grain. Different effect to using filters, high contrast filters, but still another effect. Also, that's with black and white. If you are shooting and pushing color film, it will give you more saturation and you will also get more shifts in color. Now, there are a lot of online articles, and some of them I'm going to show you sample images from, because I just found these incredibly helpful and also just very interesting to see the different films and what they do. As I say, some film is pushed and pulled better than others. You generally would push either color or black and white for more contrast and more saturation. Pulling film, generally you wouldn't do that unless you were shooting black and white. You wouldn't pull color film because it will make everything look too undercooked, if you like, and probably a bit muddy and murky. So I'm going to show you some examples. I'm just going to switch over my screen. I am so sorry about the lag going on, because even I can see the lag now, which is a bit annoying. So this is a fantastic article by thedarkroom.com. Cannot remember the name of the guy that wrote this, but it's a very, very useful article. And in it, he included a push and pull chart to show you basically, here's the box speed of your film, and then here is what you can, but this is the stops and how much you can push and pull it. So that's a useful little resource there. But also here is his little description of how to mark that your film has been pushed. Very important. You can also put it on the sheet. If you've got a developing sheet, then you should also put it on there so that the lab knows. Now, Cinestill is actually a film that I've shot quite a lot of, but I've never pushed it. It is apparently very, very good for pushing. So this is Cinestill 800T, which is the tungsten film that they have. And he's pushed it here to 3 stops, which is amazing, actually. It does give you a very different look to Cinestill straight out of the box. This is Portra 400, another one of my preferable films. I do love all Portra 160 and 400. This is pushed to a stop, and this is very nice indeed. So that gives you a little bit of a color shift there, and also, you know, because he's pushed the film, the skies come out slightly overexposed, but you've got more detail in these shadows, which you probably wouldn't have if you shot it at box speed. These are some pulling examples. I'm going to talk about pulling again in a minute. Let me just find another pushed example here. So this is another pushed example. I think this is portrait as well. Again, sort of color shift. It gives you a more atmospheric looking image, I would say. This is pushed black and white. Let's just see what film this is. Doesn't say. Just an increase in contrast. So this is a great example of increased contrast, because if you shot this at box speed, to be honest, you might not have retained all the detail in these areas anyway. But also you wouldn't get that kind of gritty grain look that you get from that shot. So that was really nicely done. This is also quite a lot of these are pushed. She's got more examples of pushed film than pulled film, but it is very interesting to see what it looks like when they've been pushed. Low light is the biggest reason to push film, because if you are stuck in a low light situation, for example, if you're indoors and you've got film that is just too slow, you've got 200 ISO film and you know that you really need 400 ISO film or even 800, then you can push that 1 or 2 stops to allow you to shoot at faster shutter speeds. This is an interesting one because I wonder how much the colors have shifted in this, but this is definitely pushed. Very high contrast. Again, another very high contrast image, so that's obviously been pushed. This one is cine still again, I can tell from the colors, and that's been pushed. Cine still has a tendency to really lose detail in the shadows if it's not overexposed. But it does usually give you lovely punchy colors in the areas that are correctly exposed. Now, a little mention on the subject of how to meter when you're pushing. If you are metering and you've got a camera that has, for example, aperture shutter priority and has spot or center weight, or even in the case of the f6, it has matrix metering, what you want to actually meter for when you're pushing is the midtones. So these middle areas rather than the highlights and the shadows, generally speaking, if you're in a high contrast situation. If you're in a low contrast situation, so I'm guessing that this was a fairly low contrast scene. Obviously, I didn't shoot it. The wonderful writer of this article shot it, but I would assume that this was a reasonably low contrasty indoor natural lighting, not too harsh on the light. So in those situations, you would actually meter for the shadows. So again, if you're in high contrast situations, meter for the midtones. If you're in a low contrast situation, when you're pushing film, meter for the shadows. That's just a little tip there. This is another sort of I would say high contrast situation that the photographer more than likely metered for the midtones, which would have been this kind of portion here and this lady's face. See, because you then do lose maybe a bit of detail in the shadows, but you also maintain a huge amount of detail in the highlights still. That also looks like a pushed example. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, that's pushed to 2 stops. Goodness me. So super high contrast there. And this one is pushed to 3 stops, which is even more high contrast. So those are some examples of pushing. I'm going to give you some examples of pulling shortly, but I have to check back at the comments because I could see people busily writing things down. Okay, so negative film rather than slide film for pushing and pulling. Yes, very good point. Thank you for pointing that out. Here I'm not talking about slide film. To be honest, the last box of slide film that I shot was a few months ago and it cost me like £25 to develop. So I decided, I was like, that's very expensive. And also it was an expired roll of slide film to add to it. So I didn't know if anything was going to come out of that at all. So Sam says, when I was a wedding assistant, the pro was shot, Portra VPS I never shot, but Portra 160 at 100. That's very interesting. There are a lot of people who I've noticed just from over the weekend I was doing a lot of looking at comments of how people used pushing and pulling just to see kind of what they were doing with it. I'm sorry, Doug, if I'm giving you a headache. This is a slightly more technical than usual talk, but hopefully not so technical that you won't want to give it a try. So a lot of people were saying, I by default will always push or pull by a certain amount. So I will always under or overexpose my film just by default, depending on what the film is. I don't necessarily recommend that, just because different lighting situations will basically give you different results. So you may not actually want pushed film if you're shooting in a bright light situation. Same as you wouldn't want to necessarily pull film if you're in a low light situation, because it's not going to actually give you, it's unnecessary to do that. I found a great article on the subject of unnecessarily pushing and pulling film. For some reason I couldn't then find it again when I wanted to bring it up on my screen, but I am going to try and show you another example. So now to talk about another mention on expired film before I forget. Expired film, you can sometimes salvage expired film by pushing it by a stop. I have only ever done this, I think, once, and every other time that I shot expired film I tended to shoot at the box speed, but it's quite a revelation if you do have a lot of expired film and it hasn't necessarily been kept in a great situation. I had a desk drawer for a long time full of film that I thought would last forever, and then realized that it expired 5 years ago. Thought, that's not so good. It's now in my fridge. I'm sorry that it's getting bad vision, stream getting really bad vision, like a 1990s TV show. I wonder, I think that has a lot to do with the I've been having technical difficulties today. I'm very, very sorry. Unfortunately, if I end the stream and start over again, you've all got to find the stream again. So I don't know that that's necessarily the right thing to do. But I will try and flip over my screen again so that you don't have to look at me looking like a 1990s TV show. Although, you know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that was a a classic, and I have no complaints about the colours that came out of that. Right, so one other pointer when you're pushing and pulling film, if you're using something like an f6 or an f5 or a camera that can read DX film, although DX itself, obviously all film, or most film that I've found these days is DX film, so the camera will read it automatically. So in order to push or pull that film, you will need to manually override that and set your ISO completely manually. That's on those cameras that actually read DX film. Another interesting point, just because I'm on the topic, some people find that when they very first get an f6 or an f5, I'm trying to think of any other cameras that read DX film. Don't know if the f4 did. I think it was a little bit too early. But sometimes you get an error message before you even had a chance to do anything with the camera. And if you just take the film off, if you take the ISO off DX before you load the film, then you'll be fine. So that's just a little tip, because I had a chap who bought an f6 about 3 weeks ago, and he had turned the camera on and had put the film in, and it just flashed up an error. And it transpired that he wasn't using DX film, and the camera was very upset about that. So he just needed to put the ISO onto manual. That's just a very quick fix, and a complete aside to what we're talking about, but it might be useful. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some examples of pulled film, again by the same lovely person that wrote that fantastic article on the subject. I am currently pulling a roll of film. It's Japan Camera Hunter Street Pan, and its normal setting is 400 ISO, so I'm shooting at 200. Now, why do I want to pull film? Pulling film, as this chap says here, is much more common in black and white, mainly because if the light is too bright, so I'm shooting at 400 ISO, and outdoors right now, it is a glorious day, and I would normally be shooting at a much lower film speed. So if I pull the film, then I'll end up with slightly less cooked highlights, if you like. The film will be developed slightly slower. Also, overall, the picture will look a little bit more subdued. This is actually an interesting example because it's quite a high contrast scene anyway. This is color film. So pulling color film generally isn't recommended, but if you do, it will mute your colors. You will not get as much in the way of color shifts. You'll more just get a very subdued look. I think that that's kind of worked here because this is a very atmospheric looking kind of scene. It's like a misty day. Here is another example. This is a very strange picture, but it's another example of pulling film. As he says here, pulling will help control contrasty, harsh light, adding details in the shadow, retaining highlights. So you don't get the color shifts from black and white. You do retain more information in the shadows and in the highlights, and you get that whole kind of undercooked look. So that is an example there of pulling film. I did have, let me just find it. Here we go. This is pushed. This is normal. This is pushed at 4 stops. This is pulled at 3 stops. Now, what I assume that they've done this, and I did read the associated article with this set of shots, was that they just manually developed to give themselves this effect. But essentially, you can also do that. Obviously, if you are developing your own film, and fantastic, and hats off to you if you are, then you can also obviously do that a little bit manually, and also then you don't have to write. It's good. It's always a good idea when you finish a roll of film to write on the box what you've done. So it's like, straight after my film, I'm going to put a +1 so that I remember when I'm developing it what to do. But if you're not developing the film yourself, then please do mark it very clearly so that your developer will know what you want to do with it. Now, interestingly enough, yes, there's also chemicals, and different chemicals can do different things, as David points out. This is more of a kind of, because we're not necessarily all working professionals that are going to go out and use this as a rule of thumb. I'm now always going to push my Kodak Portra. No, that's not what we're doing. So this is very much an experimentation, a little bit of fun and a little bit of creativity. If you've got some old expired film kicking around that you want to shoot, and you want to try and shoot it at just pushed by a stop, for example, then absolutely go for it, and please do upload the results to the drive folder. As I say, I'm currently pulling this film by a stop because it's 400 ISO, and at the moment the weather and the just general amount of light that we're getting doesn't really warrant 400 ISO black and white film, so I'm going to try and pull it and see what happens. Because somebody asked me about developers, there are a few labs that are open. I have been in touch with Robbie's Photographic, and they normally develop most of my film for me because Mr. CAD, who are just around the corner from the shop, as you might know, they use them and they send my film to them for me. Robbie's are open, and they're quite happy for you to send film to them. I have dropped them a little email. I have a couple of rolls to go. I'm just going to finish this one before I send it off. But if you do want somewhere to develop your film and you don't have the chemicals at home, although it sounds like quite a few of you do, but if you don't, then please do feel free to drop me a line and I can give you Robbie's details. But Robbie's Photographic is super easy to find online as well. I am fairly sure that Aperture is still developing film, but I have not tried to contact them. And there's a couple of other places like Metro Imaging. They've always done their developing by post, so you can send your stuff to them, no problem. So hopefully you're all going to be very inspired to shoot some film now. I'm just going to check that there was nothing else that I wrote on my notes that was super important before I summarize. No, I think I've covered everything. So in summary, if you want to push your film, just usually do it with 1 or 2 stops. Obviously, some of those examples were up to 3 stops. If you want to shoot expired film, then maybe try and push it a stop. Usually wouldn't recommend pulling it. You'll already get some color shift if you're shooting with expired film that hasn't been stored in somewhere cold anyway. If you are shooting when pushing, if you are shooting in a high contrast situation, just expose for the midtones. If you are shooting in a low contrast, good grief, if you are shooting in a low contrast situation, expose for the shadows so that you don't lose detail. Separately, if you're pulling film, then generally it will give you more subdued highlights and greater detail in the shadows. Again, what I've experienced is exposing for the midtones or the shadows also when pulling film. But if you're in a situation where there are a super amount of highlights, then expose for the highlights. Nick talks about contrast can be controlled during printing, especially black and white with different papers. This is very true. There are a number of things that you can do in developing, and there are some lovely chaps from Analog Wonderland and a few other places. They've been doing collaborations on developing and printing and the effects that you can get when you do that. So if you are super interested in that, please do have a look at them. There's another chap that I follow on Instagram. I will try and remember his name and put the link in the chat so I remember. He also does videos on the subject of developing. Nope, it's gone out of my head. Sorry to him. His name's James. I remember that much. Super helpful. All right, so we're going to have a little look at the drive folder, and I hope that you have all been very busy leaving your comments so that we can have a look at these amazing shots. There are some incredible shots in here, really a fantastic little nod to the amount of talent and creativity that we have in this group. So regardless of whether you win or not, everyone's a winner. I'm just going to say that because everyone's going to look at your photos and be able to admire them. Hopefully my internet connection will actually work here. I don't know if it will. So this is the first shot that was uploaded. I think that it's organized by earliest to latest. So in this case, I am just going to rattle through them in a reasonable pace and make a note. So here we have, this is by Mr. Hookshanks himself, the man himself. This is a lovely portrait with a very interesting composition. Now the question is, if I go backwards, is it going to go in the right direction? Yes, I think it is. Brilliant. All right, so this is a lovely outdoorsy shot. Now, if you're going to leave a comment, maybe put it in the top corner so that we can see the photo. But this looks like a wonderful campsite. This is by Steve Neal, and it was shot on Ilford 100 slide film. Goodness me, but it was digitized with a D750 and a 105 macro. So well done for that, Steve. That's a lovely shot there. Let's go back this way. All right, this one was interesting because this was from Sam, and she actually took a picture of a picture. This was developed but in coffee, I think she said, which is kind of, yes. Film was processed in coffee. It's taken using a pinhole camera. I'm very interested to see if anyone else has done any pinhole photography. It's quite interesting. This is a lovely shot by Mr. B. Beautiful. I'm guessing that's a working Springer Spaniel, possibly. Anyway, very photogenic dog there indeed. That deserved more than that in terms of comments. This is from Drazen. This is a lovely black and white photo of a concert pianist, I'm guessing, yes, in Croatia. This is a great shot. Do like that. This is, now who is this by? Very good question. I have to find out. Having to recaption. Oh, it's by John. Okay, for some reason the original comments disappeared. Well, I'm glad that you still got your 4 comments there, John, because this is a great action shot taken on film, shot with a Nikon F2A, which is a really classic camera, and a 24 2.8. Scanned with the old Nikon LS2000, no less. If only they would still make those. All right, so that's lovely. So John there got 4 votes. I'm counting as we go along. John's also included a picture of his freezer. The film's gone in the freezer. Right, this is also a lovely this is a beautiful picture. I don't know who it's by because they didn't put their name here. I can find it in the details here, but to whoever that was, thank you for that. That's gorgeous. The next shot, here we go, is another portrait. Goodness me, that got loads of votes on that one. Lovely. Who was that by? Also, don't know. So let's see, we have 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I have to find out who this was. Let's see if we can find out who uploaded it. I have to do it live. here. It looks like it was Magnus. Magnus Malmberg. Well, goodness me, Magnus, you're doing yourself out of a bunch of votes by not putting your name on there, but very well done. That's fantastic. Let's get rid of... I might actually need to keep the details up because otherwise I don't know who uploaded these things. This was from Matthias. So Matthias also took a lovely landscape there. Let's just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes there. Lovely. I wish I had consolation prizes, but I don't know if I'm quite rich enough to buy that many boxes of film. Let's see. This one's from Eves. This also got a lot of votes. It was a beautiful creative shot. Let's have a look. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes there for Eves on that one. I think some of you also uploaded a few shots. This is interesting. Walt? No, this was from David. Walt commented on it. Thank you for confusing me slightly there. That's fantastic. That's a very nice landscape. This is also lovely. This looks like it was shot... It's interesting because of the format. I wonder if it was cropped or if it was actually shot and then shot at Mayo. Maybe it was shot on 120 film or something. I'm not sure. Maybe David can clarify that for me. This has got 2 lovely votes. Also a lovely, very kind of historic looking 1983. Goodness me, it's timeless actually. This is also a lovely shot from Paul. This one I've shown a few times. This little cutie here was captured really nicely by Paul. This one has had 3 votes on this one. Well done, Terry. That's lovely. And then this one I think also had a lot of votes. This was by Funk Trainer. No idea who you are, but hello, Funk Trainer. So this was taken on F2 and this one also got a lot of votes. Obviously, the more that people put comments on it, the harder it is for me to see them. But it looks like it got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also 6 votes. Goodness me, fantastic. This one also got a few votes. This was by Richard. This is lovely for film. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it was film until I looked at it close up and saw that it has very soft grain. It's very pretty. Fantastic, Simon. This one's really interesting because of these little elements in it. Very nice composition there. This is also wonderfully atmospheric. I wonder how this would have looked. If it had been pushed. I mean, it's already very atmospheric. You could have it printed and put on your wall because there's enough little elements to it that you'd want to have a look at it. That was by Peter. This one is by Nige. I like this. I like the way that he's included the topic of the competition in the picture. It's really interesting, like a little view into history. This one's by Peter. This is lovely. Very nice angle indeed on that. Where is this place? Canada. Yes, there we go. This one's by Paul. This looks like... It's really interesting, actually. People taking pictures of newspapers from time gone by. You can really tell. It's a very nice historical shot. This one is by Joy. This was also very interesting, very atmospheric black and white shot there. It doesn't say what it was shot on, but it is very nice. It's in Peterborough. This one's by Thaddeus. This is interesting. There's it's like a little story behind this one. And then this is a lovely portrait. This is by Mr. Hookshanks and was taken on F2. Fantastic choice of camera, I must say. Lots of people shooting on F2s, I'm noticing. This one was by Brian, who... I'm trying to see, would have been an FTN or an FT2. Nice, very, very nice. This one had 1, 2, 3, I think, no, two votes. Well done for that. And this one should have had more votes. This is fantastic, Nick. I love this picture, very bright and green. I like the composition there as well. This is also very atmospheric. Now, this was also by Nick. So we've got 1, 2, 3 20th century fogs. That's what it looks like. Yes, exactly. And that was shot on an F801S. Goodness. I like how everyone's really stuck with the Nikon brand over the years. It's brilliant. This appears to have been shot with a Noct and a double exposure on an F3. It really works. That's fantastic because you don't really realize that it is a double exposure except for the fact that the moon is colossal and is scarily close to us. So well done for that, Ivar. That's really wonderful. This one is another one by Iva. This one's got 2 votes. Also very, very nice. And another one. Wow, goodness me. But lovely colours on that. I'm trying to see what it was taken on. Not sure what film that was taken on, but it was taken on an F3, which is wonderful. Another one from Ivar. Goodness me. This is interesting. It kind of looks like a tennis court almost. There we go. And yes, this is also a fantastic shot. This looks, I wonder, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes there for Robert. That's brilliant. Well done for that one. This looks like something out of a movie set for sure. I think we're near the beginning now because we've got this wonderful portrait by Andrew, which also looks like it was taken on a square format. And then this one was, well, this was an accidental double exposure. Oh, aren't those the best type? The accidental double exposures? Brilliant. All right, so by the looks of things, Magnus with his 11 votes, if I can find it, I think it was this one. Let's just double check. If I am not mistaken, I should have kept the details up. Yep, Magnus is the winner. So well done to Magnus for that. That is fantastic. Thank you for bearing with me while I went through all of those comments. I really did want to do it before I started the stream, but it wasn't as clear cut as that. So it looks like people have been very, very busy commenting in the meantime. So really, really, really well done to Magnus for that. Magnus, we have to choose a roll of film for you, a box of film, sorry. Now, the small caveat is that it has to come from Analog Wonderland. So pop over to their website and let me know what film you want from them and I will get it. As long as it's in stock, I can buy it from them. Analog Wonderland, just so you know, they're not, they are an independent little company. They're based in Buckinghamshire. I found them by accident, actually, through someone that I followed on Instagram. And they have been wonderful in terms of collaborating with us. They give us a discount code. So Grays_10 gives you 10% off your orders from them now. They ran a competition with us. They are super great. And they also do a stream once a week, I think on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, where they talk about film. So if you are interested in film photography, do check them out. You can also check them out on social media. Analog Wonderland is the name. It's quite easy to remember. So let's all give a round of applause to Magnus. Woo! Well done for winning the competition. As I say, I wish that I had prizes for everyone, but I actually have to buy the box of film for Magnus, which I'm going to do once he tells me what film he wants. So there were a couple of other things not related to film that a few people commented on the other day. I did get a comment on the subject of firmware updates, which I will do. But I thought I should mention, someone said to me, did you know that the WR10 kit, which I've talked about in my earlier streams, did you know that that needs a firmware update? Yes, I did know that. However, the firmware update was over a year ago. So if you've bought a WR10, if you've managed to get hold of one of the Holy Grail WR10s, it's like a golden egg. Something like that. What do they say? Hen's teeth. It's like a hen's tooth. If you've managed to get a hold of one of those in the last year or so, you will already have the firmware update on it. If you bought one several years ago when they first came out, when the SB5000 came out roughly, so maybe 4-5 years ago, you may need to get the firmware updated. Only Nikon can do that, but it's unlikely that you would not know that already. If you have one, you will probably already know. You can always check. That was one technical question that I got sent. Obviously, I can't do a video on the subject of firmware updates for WR10s because it's a Nikon only thing. I can, however, do a stream covering the subject of firmware updating your cameras and lenses. If that is required, I will do it. You ask and I shall deliver. I have a little list of streams that I'm going to hopefully cover over the next few weeks, depending on how long this quarantine lasts for. Hopefully maybe not that long, who knows. Everyone's catching up with me now and saying congratulations to Magnus. Yes, very well done. I don't actually know if Magnus is here joining us today, but if he doesn't see it, then I will contact him anyway. Just as an aside, all of your pictures will be included in our next newsletter with credits to yourself. And I will make sure that I credit the right photos to the right people. So thank you to everyone massively for contributing to that competition. It was wonderful to see your pictures. It's so nice to see some people shot the film recently, some of them shot it in the 80s, the camera variants, the different ways that you've scanned it. It was all really, really wonderful to see. You're welcome to continue to view that file. We will keep it up so that you can have a look at those pictures at your leisure. Now, on the subject of pushing and pulling film, just to wrap up, if you do have any examples that you want to share, please do upload those to the Drive folder. Just the general Drive folder is fine, and maybe I can share some of those examples in my next stream. I have some topics in mind for the next stream. One thing that I do want to talk about is Nikon have started a new campaign, which I should probably have written down on a piece of paper, but it's cool. It's a campaign called #CreateYourLight. And what they're essentially, I'm just going to hold that up to the camera there, you can see it. #CreateYourLight with my very, very rough handwriting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about natural light and lighting subjects. I'm not going to do a full speed light course because I don't really have the setup for that in front of my computer, but I will try and do something on the subject of natural lighting for you so that you can all participate in Nikon's #CreateYourLight campaign, which they're running across all the social media platforms. So we will cover that a little bit on Thursday. But if you have any questions on film or digital, or what I've talked about today, or what I talked about last week, or what you think I should cover in another stream, then feel free to leave a comment at the end of the video. Send me an email. The emails that I'm getting are terrific, and honestly, it warms my heart. It really does when people send me emails. But it does. I really do love getting comments. I mean, some people are super helpful. They're saying, get this set up so that your streams are improved and stuff. We are working on all that as well. It's all a matter of trying to get it all done in time for the next stream and the next stream. You'd be amazed at how time flies when you're in quarantine. But anyway, Terry says, sorry, he didn't comment on some of the pictures. It's totally fine. If you didn't get a chance to comment on the pictures, you can still have a look at the pictures that are in the folder. Well done to this community is all I can say. I think that everyone did a terrific job. That is everything from me today. So as I say, if you have any questions or you have any comments, feel free to drop them below after the stream has finished. Send me an email. I am checking my emails as frequently as I could. Did I get your bunny photographer shot? I don't know if I did. I will have a look in my inbox for it. I did get sent a couple of massive files that got stuck somewhere and my emails couldn't load properly. It's I think that the internet gods, as I call them, are having a really hard time with the amount of people that are online and doing things at the moment. So things are getting a bit stuck, hence the weird kind of jerky and laggy stream today. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining me. I will see you on Thursday at 2:15 ideally, provided that my computer decides to work. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for joining me.